Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out on this hot day. I'm Michael Karp, and I'll be the facilitator for this session this afternoon. And we're looking forward to your feedback about GWP's electric rate proposal. Steve Zern, the GWP Interim General Manager, will give a welcome in a moment. But first, I wanted to review the agenda with you and some important logistics before we start the presentation, so you get a sense of this next hour and a half and how we design this session. So there'll be a presentation, and there'll be 4 or 5 different parties that have parts of that will take turns presenting it. And after that, we'll leave plenty of time for questions and answers. And then we have an exercise of breaking out into some smaller groups for just some discussion to help you think through some of the issues there, but finally it'll culminate in kind of a formal public comments, and we'll be recording all that. One of the things we ask is that you hold all your questions until the end of the presentation, but we have pads and paper for you to write down those questions as they come up. Excuse me, well, you have the copies of the slides, and you can be writing them on that as we go through it. And the Q&A session is just that. I know usually there's a tendency to make comments there, but we just want clarifying questions at that time, and then again, you'll be able to have discussion and have formal comments after that. If during the Q&A session that there are questions that you feel are not answered or answered adequately, or we just don't know, we're going to ask you to write those down and put your email address if you have it, phone number if you don't, and we will get back to you. Somebody from GWP will do some research and try to get back to you on that. There's, as I think you know, there's 4 other public meetings, and we'll be taking notes and comments at each of those, and this will culminate into us putting together a report on the essence of what that public feedback has been, and also what the formal comments have been, and those will be reported to the Glendale City Council. This particular meeting, as you can see, is being televised by GTV6. And lastly, I would say that if you parked in the civic parking and you're a little stub on the way out, staff are in the back that'll help with validation for that. So at this time, I'm going to turn this over to Steve Zern, the Interim General Manager of GWP. Steve.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for all for coming out on our inaugural kickoff meeting to discuss potential electrical rate increase proposals that the utility has for our various customers. As Michael said, our agenda here is to go through and brief you on a little bit of the history, talk about issues such as reliability and some of the accomplishments of the utility, and then get into really the meat of it, which is the financial outlook, what the proposals are, how those may impact you, and then get to getting your comments and questions answered. So with that, we'll jump into a little bit of the history. I don't know who's got, do I have this?
Yeah, it's right there too.
Oh, okay. Wow, this is, so the very beginnings, in 1909, the city of Glendale purchased Glendale Light and Power Company, the plant and the distribution system, and 195 accounts for $23,000. You can see we've come a long way since then. We're up to almost 85,000 customers. And through the years, especially in the late 20s, we constructed some of the major facilities that we have for the utility. Again, this is just going through 1940 when the Grayson Power Plant. That's a very key date there, because Grayson Power Plant is a key facility of ours, but you can see that it is an old facility. And as such, some of the equipment is aging, and that's where a great deal of our capital investment is needed to keep that facility operational. We're looking at some different options to modernize that facility, but nonetheless, it is an expensive proposition to keep that going. But we think it's a key component to our electrical production. and our ability to keep power coming to our customers in a reliable fashion, and also not become totally reliant on outside sources for power. And again, here as you go through, and I can tell you, having visited the power plant a couple of times, a lot of the equipment that was installed in 1940 is still operational. In fact, most of it is 1940 to 1950 aged equipment. And you can see as we grew as a city, the utility grew as well. And as we get into the 60s and 70s, we start to modernize with gas turbine units. As we got into the 2000s, you see some of the major replacements that have taken place. And then we also, for reliability and conservation and ability to best provide our customers with service, we began the conversion of our distribution lines from 4 kV to 12 kV. This is a program that will take quite some time, but we think at the end of the day, especially in regards to reliability and our ability to maintain the system and keep it running constantly in excellent condition, that this is a real good move for us. And then rounding out the last couple of years where we've upgraded a couple of our substations to better provide power to certain areas that have grown and changed and whose demands have changed during that period. Here we are with just some successes. This really is about reliability and our utility's ability to respond to major incidents that either on a national basis or a Western United States basis, or even just a local basis with some of the utilities that are on either side of us in LA, Pasadena, or Burbank, is our ability to respond to these type of situations and get power back up and restored, or in certain cases, not even lose power at all, while we see others that are experiencing serious problems. That has to do with maintenance. That has to do with continuing to invest in the infrastructure. Everything from keeping our equipment up to date to maintaining tree trimming around our lines. I think most of you will recall the serious windstorm we had, and that is something we have listed. The 2011 windstorm, when our neighbors to the east had a very difficult time. Their power was off for some time. Our power was very, very limited impact on ours. And a lot of that had to do with the maintenance that we performed and the money that we put into the core infrastructure of the utility distribution system. A lot of our lines were damaged as well, but when we were looking at a maximum of 3 days in certain locations. Some of our neighboring cities were out for more than 5 days, some longer in the Edison area. The last bullet there, actually, as we got our service up and running, we provided aid to others to help them get theirs up and running, especially in Pasadena. This is our continuous pursuit of excellence, and really that excellence translates into reliability, because that's the key for us, is reliability, to make sure that we maintain electrical service to our customers on a constant basis. And to that end, we've been nationally recognized just recently. Only one of 176 cities of 2000, one of 176 cities of 2000 that were recognized. 2,000 utilities, I should say. That includes both public and private. I think, Ramon, is that right? Just public. Just public. We've continued to reduce our outage recovery time. And you'll see when Mr. Abweg talks a little bit about the electrical system, he has some statistics that show that reliability in graph form. Lower durations of outages. We've made system improvements for the last several years. We constantly, safety is a huge issue for us, both for our customers and for those employees who work on our system. Verdugo Power Academy, this is a joint effort with Glendale Community College, where it's a job training, where we get young folks that are interested in getting into the electrical maintenance field. We teach them. They come out of there ready to go into an apprenticeship program, whether it's with us. We'd hope that they'd stay with us, but we've also benefited, or this program has benefited other utilities in the area with getting quality folks into their system. And again, there's a lot of federal and state mandates in the utility. I've been here for 2 months. Some of you may know me as the Public Works Director. There's a lot of regulatory requirements in Public Works as well. I have never seen as many as here. And reliability and safety are huge in most of those, and we continue to excel in that area. Among one of the top 5 to 10 in state energy efficiency, and then our Smart Grid Modernization program is one of the first, at least of its size and scope, and it's been rated as a model program, especially in the area of risk management. And this is by the Department of Energy, so this is on a federal level. And with that, I'm going to let Ramon come up and talk a little bit about the electrical system.
Good afternoon, and again, thank you for spending some time with us so we can go through what our system is about and what we're trying to achieve. Again, I'm Ramon Abueg. I'm basically the person responsible for keeping the lights on for the city of Glendale. The reason I'm here is I wanted to let you know that since 2007, with the last time we asked for a rate increase and when we received some bonds, we have been investing into the system. And the main thing is to really make some improvements. If you recall, back in the 90s, during the deregulation, a lot of the investments into the infrastructure was stopped because there was some concern that we may have to sell off the utility because of the deregulation. So from the mid-90s to the early 2000s, there was very little investment made into the infrastructure. And as a result of that, we had several outages, and I can look at, I can review that with you later on, but these are the amount, the dollars spent there, that's in millions of dollars. Okay, so in our transmission system, the transmission system here is what connects our substations from the power plant to the distribution substations. We've spent $11.1 million in trying to make improvements to minimize the outages, because any outage on a transmission system actually will affect most, if not all of the city, if we don't take care of the transmission system. Substations that provide service to a specific neighborhood, we've made several improvements to that, up to and including replacing, just simple replacement of old transformers. Distribution system is where we've made a lot of investment, and not included here is what Steve mentioned, the tree trimming. That's in our O&M program, but we spend at least $500,000 a year just in tree trimming. But the main thing here is our conversion program. And the reason we do a lot of conversion is we've had problems with trees here. The reason I mentioned trees, with the conversion, we're able to spread out the lines a lot further, so when the trees make contact, it limits, if not prevents, power outages from happening. It also helps with our energy efficiency. We have less losses. That helps with our costs and trying to improve our costs. System protection is what we do in the substation. That is, we sense the problems right away, detect it, isolate it, so we're able to restore the power a lot sooner. And SCADA, which stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, is what gives us the ability to see everything that's happening real time. In other words, when we have an outage, like I'm not proud to say like yesterday, when it happens, we are aware when it happened, how it happened. We might not know why, but before we get the phone calls, we already know that we have a problem. We already have crews responding. Okay, and what did these investments do for us is, and I tracked it down from 2005, because that's when we started investing heavily into infrastructure. And I recall this vividly, is that back in those days, we were in the front page of the news press, if not the LA Times, almost on a daily basis because of power outages we're having. And these are measures that we make in trying to see how reliable our system is. And as you can see there, the total outages, the duration of the outages were much higher, and over time, we have been showing some improvements. And this is a result of the investment we've made to the system. And where we are now, here, where you see it's lowered, we've actually plateaued, and we've set our target around that, and we want to maintain that. We can never go to a zero outage. I'm sorry to say, because it's just impossible. But we are trying to make improvements. So that our goal is to, if we do have a problem, is to restore power within an hour. 40 minutes actually is the goal that we've been given. And it requires investments into the system to make that happen. So what does that mean? So what we do is we try to compare our performance with the neighboring utilities, including Edison. So what we do, we benchmark against each other, try to see, and the reason for that is not just for bragging rights, but also we try to share best practices with each other. We try to learn from each other. So as you can see, our performance here, we're the first one here, that's Glendale. You can see even back in 05, we're somewhat, it's high based on our standards. We're already doing better than the other cities surrounding us, including Edison. And as time goes by, we're showing a lot of improvement. So, and this is something that we are really, really proud and we are bragging about, because this didn't happen overnight. And this took a lot of commitment from our staff and the investment that we made into the system, and this is what you're getting. We try to keep the lights on a lot sooner, and to a certain extent, if we can prevent the outage, we would. So with that, a segue to this is the modernization that we're doing with the upgrades on the substation is what we're going to invest towards the future, so that we can now get more data, more granular information about what's happening in the system. Right now, we can see it at what we call the substation level. But once we complete the modernization, we can actually do a lot more, automate a lot of the recovery that we have. Rather than sending out crews, we'll be able to do recoveries a lot sooner using the automation or the modernization that we're doing. So with that, Craig.
Thank you, Ramon. I'm Craig Keenan, the Business Transformation and Marketing Administrator. And I'll just give you a quick update here on our Smart Grid Modernization Program. So, got little notes here. Basically, the program is, for the past couple of years, we've been concentrating on our metering program, our new metering program. But the program is much larger than that. It's been around, as Ramon pointed out, as far back as 2005 when we started the 4 kV to 12 kV upgrade. So the Smart Grid Modernization includes that, the upgrades of our distribution system, new IT systems, like I said, the metering part of it, in a whole array of new programs for customers to participate in our system and have the information and tools they need to reduce their energy bills. So basically our goals, we want to support cost reductions through operational efficiencies. We want to support system reliability through improved grid management. That's the IT systems. Integration of renewable energy and energy storage. The state's going to this 33% of our power needs to come from renewable energy. There's a number of systems that we're putting on locally on houses, in businesses here, solar photovoltaic systems. Most people think those systems generate consistent power over time. And in fact, they fluctuate up and down every time a cloud comes over, and that puts noise in your system. So as we get more and more to the 33% level, we need to be able to control that and fill in the gaps with energy storage. So that's what that goal is about. And as I mentioned, enable new customer programs. Just a couple weeks ago, the City Council approved a number of new programs that we're going to roll out here in the next 12 to 18 months. The first one is our web-based home energy reports. You can go online right now and you can sign up and you can see your past energy usage by the hour, by the day, by the week. And so you can better manage your energy usage. Historically, you got a bill every 2 months. So it's like going to the grocery store. You can buy all you want and you never have to pay for it. We'll send you a bill in 2 months and you just pay it and you don't know what you actually used it on. You can go online the next day and see what you used by the hour the day before. And like I said, you can do that right now. It's really empowering, so you can see your usage that way. Well, the next one is this mobile MyConnect. It's so you can have that same information on your smartphone. We're looking to roll that out in about 8 months. You could get alarms saying, you know, if you continue using this much a day, your bill will be this much, and you know, you can do like budgeting, and so you can get, you know, warnings from, you know, your smartphone that you're using more electricity than you budgeted. We have a smart thermostat program. That's new programs that are connected to the system where it kind of memorizes what you want your thermostat set on, and it will automatically set it for you. When it'll know when you're going to come home, and it'll turn on your air conditioning a little before you get there. And it'll turn it off at night, and it just learns your habits, and so it just incorporates that into the thermostat and adjusts your usage based on your patterns. Different educational tools that we're going to use social networking and other things to help educate you on how to use these programs and how to sign up for them and how you can save on your bills. The other one is the green button. That's a federal program where there's a lot of companies out there that are developing applications on like an iPad or an iPhone, or so you can go online and download your data and use those applications yourself. We have a program we're launching for business customers to look at their data. And then we have a new online rebate program where it'd be much easier if you buy things we provide rebates for, and you can do it all online or through your smartphone, so you don't have to fill out a paper application and wait months to get it. It would be pretty much instantaneous, and the rebate would show up on your bill, the next bill. And finally, we're this smart rate engine. You'd be able to go online, and as we offer different kinds of rates like time of use or other things, you can just click on a button to see what your bill would be on this other rate to see if you could save money, and it's just to help you out. And that's basically update on the program. But this is probably the part you're looking to see most. So turn it over to Eric Campbell, Finance Administrator.
Thank you, Craig. My name is Eric Campbell, and I recently joined the City of Glendale in the position of Finance Administrator for Glendale Water and Power. So far, you've heard some good background and recent accomplishments, the investments that the utility has been making in order to continue to provide you improved, reliable service. You've also heard about some of the ongoing modernization efforts. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk through our financial matters and give you some background into what this proposed rate impact is and how it will impact or would possibly impact your electric utility bill. I want to begin by talking about some of the current challenges we face, and I'm sure that some of these will resonate well with business owners that are out here in the audience today. Beginning with the economy. We are certainly very aware and concerned about the economic conditions that we all face, and this utility has done a pretty good job of maintaining a stable rate base for you in the past 5 or 6 years. As has been mentioned earlier on previously, we haven't had a rate increase since 2007. Another big driver of our business is weather. The hotter it gets, the more that everyone turns on their air conditioners. The facts are that in the past 3 years, we've had some very mild, nice weather. It's been very nice, but that's been a driver in declining our sales and in turn the revenues that we need in order to run the utility. We've also experienced the loss of several large customers. Among those are some of the names that you are familiar with: Circuit City, Mervyn's, Borders, among others. We also have, as previously mentioned, ongoing state renewable mandates for us to purchase renewable energy. That is very expensive, as everybody in the state and most utilities in the nation are required to purchase these resources, so it's quite competitive and costly. It also adds quite a bit of complexity into our system, as folks have previously mentioned. The wind and the solar just adds all sorts of variability to and complexity to our operations. So what Craig previously mentioned about the modernization through technology, and as Ramon mentioned, through investment in our infrastructure, those are going to help us deal with being able to utilize this renewable energy that we are all interested in getting. Finally, I'm going to talk about the alignment of our revenues and expenses. That might sound kind of interesting, but the facts are it's awfully difficult with variables like this, adding uncertainty and variance in our revenues and what we're required to do. So, kind of set the stage a little bit. We're here today to talk about raising your rates, increasing our revenue. So I wanted to shed some light on some of the meaningful activities that we have been taking part of in order to reduce this request. Essentially, our budget year just began July 1st. This year's budget is $53 million less than last year. That's a 20% reduction. That's a meaningful cut, and it's taken a lot of hard work to get that far. To get there, we have reduced our workforce by 15%. We have essentially zeroed out, deferred, delayed, canceled a lot of our capital expenditure planning. So some of this infrastructure work you're hearing about is put on hold. As Steve mentioned, he is new as the general manager for the utility. I am new in the financial administration position. So there's been some new leadership coming on, and we are taking a very comprehensive look at this utility to find further ways to manage our costs and our resources and to be able to meet the future needs of this utility. So let me walk you through what our budget looks like at a very high level. The orange box there shows that we have a $211.4 million operating budget this year. But as you can see on that pie chart there, majority, over half of our expenses is just purchasing the fuels and the power that we need to keep the lights on in the city. Down towards the bottom, you'll see a couple of very small slices. The capital improvement budget, like I said, it's basically zeroed out. It's a very small slice. We have some interest on our existing debt that we're going to pay, and depreciation. Up on the top in the purple, you'll see an item called transfer. That's the city transfer. And essentially, all public power agencies in this country, this is a primary goal for the cities that own them. It's to earn a return on the investment and the effort that takes to run a public utility. There's a lot of good things that come from this. It funds our police and fire. And again, it's really a core reason why public power exists in the United States. The last slice I want to talk about is labeled O&M. That stands for operation and maintenance expenses. And that's truly the one slice of this that we can, as a utility, can adjust and control quite well. And that's where we're going to continue to look for ways to find efficiencies and belt tightening. However, you can see, that's not a comparatively big slice of what we have to work with. So as I mentioned, we've reduced staff. We've really made some meaningful cuts to our budget. That's driving the current restructuring that we're doing at the electric utility. We're finding different ways of running processes and programs. I mentioned that we have zeroed out our capital planning, but you know that's not sustainable. What I want to point out here is there's basically a 5-year plan for us to spend over $90 million on capital issues for items ranging from our distribution system to upgrade and work on our aging Grayson power plant, and to continue moving in the right direction with the modernization effort of this utility. These are things that we are pausing right now, but really are not sustainable. We'll have to address these sooner rather than later. So what do we hope to achieve with this rate increase? What we want to do is be able to make sure that we have sufficient revenues to meet the ongoing operation and maintenance obligations of this utility. We want to make sure that we can handle and do some prudent capital investments in the utility so that we leave a good utility for the next generation. Part of that is maintaining a solid credit rating so that we can go to market and issue bonds, issue debt, so that we can finance some of this work. Also, part of the goal is to not be as reliant on debt as we currently are to fund these capital programs, to enable us to kind of pay as you go for some of this activity. We also want to restore our cash reserve levels to a prudent level so that we can handle unexpected, unplanned variance in our operations, which can range from natural disasters, windstorms, an expensive piece of equipment breaking. This is a very capital-intensive business that we run in, and that's why there's only one utility in the town. So it just we do need to have a prudent level of reserves on hand to handle these things. And of course, all of this is under the umbrella of being able to maintain competitive and reasonable rates. Not an easy task, but we think we've got a plan here to address this. So in this slide, what I'm showing is two scenarios. They're simply named original and alternative. Let me take a minute to explain the original. What we're looking at here, originally what we did was we recognized what our financing and operating needs are going to be, and we put together a 3-year plan to basically get us to where we need to be. However, that would require a 6.5 base rate increase this year, an additional 6% next year, and then again a third consecutive year in 2015 of a 4% increase to your base rate. That works out to a compounded 17.4 increase in your rates. But again, being sensitive to the economic conditions and times that we're in, we've also come up with an alternative. And what that does is it takes us a little bit longer, doesn't quite get us as far as we would like to be, but we believe this is a more palatable and more sensitive way to get to where we believe that we can hold this utility at and maintain its efficiency and reliability. We have selected to move forward with the alternative version. So here's what this means to you. What I'm showing you here is a slide of a monthly residential electric bill. So starting in the very first column, you'll see it says low income. Our system average low income households, the average use is 250 kilowatt hours per month. Currently on a monthly basis, they're paying $39.94. Under this scenario that we're talking about, that monthly bill will increase 89 cents. In the second year, it would increase an additional 85 cents per month. The third year out, it would increase $1.17 per month, and so on. If you look at the next row down in white, it's labeled multifamily. That's your townhomes and your apartments. The average in our system here is a use of 335 kilowatt hours. So on average, right now, those folks are paying $51.50 per month in their electric utility bill. Under this proposal, that bill would go up $1.11 this year, an additional $1.08 next year. In the third and fourth years, you can also see the increases there. Certainly last but not least is the single-family residentials. Their average use is 659 kilowatt hours per month. On average, those folks are paying $103.17 today. Under this proposed rate increase, it's an additional $2.18 per month. Now, what I want to be clear on here is this is a monthly projection, and as I understand it, many of you receive your bills once every 2 months, so you would need to double these numbers to get a fair projection of where we believe the electric utility component of your rates will go up. Now, as far as our low-income folks, we have a $10 subsidy program So as I showed earlier, under this scenario, the bill would go up to $40.83, but the net effect would be your bill would be $30.83 per month under this plan for this year, and it would proceed out to a total of $34.06 in the outlying years. How does this make us comparable to our neighboring utilities? The center, you'll see Glendale. It's the green bar with the red top. The rest are our neighboring utilities, and as you can see, the green and the red is still a very competitive, comparable rate in comparison. So what we got there, the green bar is your current rates. The red small addition on top is the proposed rate increase for the average bill. For those of you from the commercial side of business, this is a comparable impact that it would have on you. Again, you'll see that Glendale is the green and red bar. The green is where you're at today, and the red is the proposed increase. And you can see that we are fairly comparable and competitive compared to our neighboring utilities. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the moderator. I hope that so far what I've done is help to kind of shed some light and insight into what we're planning and thinking, and I'm looking forward to responding to your questions shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, panel. Thanks everybody for being so patient. For the folks who came in later, my name is Michael Karp, and I'm facilitating this session. And this is your time. We're going to learn from your questions, and looking forward to those. As far as comments, following the question and answer session, we are going to have some breakout groups, about 20 minutes of discussion around tables. We have some suggested topics you might want to use as a prompt, or you can use your own. And then following that, we're going to have some formal public comments that will be recorded as well. So that's the format for today. So we're going to open this up now to question and answers. There's a microphone that will be coming around. And then we have one microphone up here, and see where we go. First question.
Hi there, my name is Mike Mohill. In the depreciation account, you wrote, I forgot what that number was, I was just looking at it right now. Is that revolving or non-revolving, the money? And in 2000, the GWT reserve was about $243 million. About $200 million was electrical, and $43 million was water. What happened to all that money, please?
Eric, are you best to take a shot at that?
Yeah, I just want to make sure this is on. Everybody can hear me. The first question had to do with the depreciation, and as I understand the question, I had a slide up there that showed that there was a significant portion of our budget was depreciation, and what that is the accounting rule, non-cash amortization of the value of our plants over time. The second question had to do with the level of our reserves. And what has happened over time is this utility under the prior administration had elected to invest that cash in some of the infrastructure rather than go to market and issue debt.
What was that infrastructure? Is that smart meters?
No, sir. A large part of this, and the other folks here, Ramon, you can chime in if you'd like to add to this, that a lot of it was around the distribution system. And Ramon, can you, would you like to speak a little bit to that?
Pass the mic, maybe.
Yeah, if you recall, we have been making improvements on our conversion on the 4 to 12 kV, and recently, the most recent the project we completed was the Glorieta substation. Although the substation has a price tag of about, I believe, $12 million, the projects associated with that, which includes improvement of the transmission system and the distribution area to make sure that we can have that flexibility that runs into a few $1 million. In terms of the expenses we've been making, we have been investing a lot more on the infrastructure than we were with these so-called smart meters.
Great. Other questions?
Yes,
excuse me, one second.
Yes, my name is Lorraine Mohill. I appreciate this meeting today. I just wanted to ask a question. I noticed on this monthly bill comparison that looks like Burbank's rates are a little bit more than ours. However, my understanding is that their low-income discount program is 40% off for anybody qualifying for low income. So they have 40% off their electric and their sewer, I believe. And I know we're only allowing $10 a month. So there's definitely a discrepancy there based upon, again, I understand I can see a little bit more for, a little savings for us on the general bill. But as far as low income goes, why would theirs be 40% and ours would only be $10 per month?
Craig?
Well, regarding the $10 a month, that's close to 29% of the bill. Now, I can't speak specifically to Burbank's program unless they've changed it recently.
No, excuse me, they've had it for the last, I believe, 7 years.
Yes, but I remember that about 7 years ago, it didn't include all low income. It was only senior low income, so they didn't even have a program for low income 7 years ago. That might have changed. I can look into it and I get back to you on that. But ours is right around 28 to 30% of the bill.
Okay, Arm and then Lillian. And the microphone's coming up. Just 1 second, please. It'll be easier for the television.
Talk loud enough. Okay. The question I have from Eric, I need more fine details on, I asked Craig about it before, on the rate increases. You don't have enough paperwork for me here to analyze it. There is further, there's a backup sheet. I'd like to get that sheet to analyze the exact, all the rate increases, which I appreciate you can get me that copy. Another problem is, we're talking about the, Mike Mohill said about the reserve funds have come down. Remember, we spent $71 million on a smart meter, which is still not functioning. As I read in the paper, that's we need another $11 million to complete the infrastructure for that to be able to get the $20 million from the federal funds for the one we're supposed to receive. But I also understand that 11 million from somebody told me it's not sufficient to even complete that system yet. Right now the newspapers say 11 million, but I understand from someone else that the 11 million is, we need almost double that much to complete that smart grid system to make it function correctly. What's the situation on that? Can you give me that, please?
So I'd like to begin by just thank you for the questions and the issue around additional table information about the rate increases. We will make sure that we get that posted out, public information for you. As regarding the modernization and the smart grid program and the recent newsletters, I'd like to turn it over to Craig and Steve.
Craig can back me up on this. And Mr. Kazazian, I'm not sure exactly the sheets and backup you're talking about, but we'd certainly talk to you afterwards, and whatever data that we have available that would help you, we'd be happy to do that.
I appreciate that,
yeah.
yes.
As far as the smart grid goes, and I think the recent article in the news press didn't quite portray it the way I would, or the way it was portrayed at the meeting when Craig made the presentation. But the original program was approximately $70 million. Of that, there was a $20 million DOE grant, that's the federal government, and Craig helped me $1 million from the state that came into that as well. We've completed close to $60 million of the project. There remains about $11 million. Now, when you say somebody may have told you that doesn't quite finish it, well, it does finish what the original program was designed to be. But this modernization effort continues to go on in the future as different components and different softwares and different features come to light that we can install within our system to help improve both efficiency, reliability, customer service. Those things will continue. We always look to modernize our system to make it as efficient as possible. What number is that? We don't quite know. It could be a small ongoing capital expense with some M&O as well. But the bottom line is the original $71 million is about 2/3 complete, and then we have this year, because you saw the zeroed out capital, We don't have any funds in there for certain parts of the program. But you even saw, Craig showed you that we're still moving forward with the public benefit charge component of it. We have some IS components that we're continuing to work on. And once we get our capital program back in order, we'll complete it in fairly short order as well, if I'm correct, Craig.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions here, so we're going to keep moving. Lillian, and then there's 3 questions here, which will take you in order. If you raise your hands if you have questions, and I'll try to get to you 1, 2, 3 after. So we have 6 lined up now after Lillian. Okay, thank you.
My questions are more for clarification. Reliability is reliability of systems, not necessarily reliability of customer service, correct?
I'm sorry, Lillian.
Reliability, increasing and maintaining your reliability, and the schedules that you showed to us, they apply to reliability of systems, not reliability necessarily of customer service, so that we are all, or
well,
is,
I guess
is it both? We want to know.
The way I would look at it is that reliability ultimately results in the production of a service to our customers. So absolutely, we view reliability as the ultimate customer service, which is making sure your electricity is consistent, efficient, and cost effective.
Now, regarding depreciation, he beat me to the punch. Yes, it is a booking entry, so you are not asking to fund that $21 million. That's just a booking of your budget, correct? So none of the increase or the increases that you're proposing will be covering that, because that's just a booking area, entry, correct?
That is a booking income.
Just wanted to clarify that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lillian. We have 3 questions here, and then we'll get to this side of the room. Thanks for your patience for all this.
My name is Peggy Trent McVitie. I'm a victim, so I don't know how to get out of this situation. So I bring in this meeting everybody, if they have any idea to get me out of the victim, I'd be so happy. Okay, I live, my property is only me, almost 30 years. And I have seen some neighbor, the apartment, they pay everything to the limit. It's not like me. I have to pay the full price. They pay, because they claim on low income, and they pay to certain limit, and they still tie up the meter. And my house, when I gone out, I turn off the meter, I came back, the meter is go up 30 watts or 20 watts or 10 watts when I wasn't using electric. And in the meantime, I pay everything for myself, but I can't use them. Sometimes water up there, I water my garden, I can't get a drop of water. And my hot water in my room, it can't use because underground somebody uses it. They use electric. When I work far away from home, somebody came in my house, they connect from the electric, from the meter, go through the water, and they live under the ground. And when I report to the police, they say no evidence. But the water I can't use, when I turn the water on, not even a drop of water. And electric in the house, it can't use it. And hot water can use it. And sometimes I have to cook and eat with that dirty water. But I complain, nobody can touch my complaint. Nobody.
Not sure if it's a direct question about the rates, but it is a question for GWP, and there's staff in the back of the room that could help you with that.
Because it's somebody, they did like that, that's illegally, that bring up everybody's bill up.
There's a gentleman right there that's asking to speak to you about it.
I'm satisfied with when I pay water and electric, and I had to eat and drink this kind of water. And sometimes the water is so stunk, I can't even use it.
Okay.
This is evidence relevant. Otherwise, when I complain, nobody understands.
Let's see what we can do to help you out in the back of the room. There's people waiting there to talk to you further.
Then when I'm not home, somebody came inside my property and they act like they're home, and they use to make my house so dirty, and they even get finance out from my property.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with you. We'll see what we can do to help. We have to keep moving here, though. I do appreciate that, but I know there's folks in the back that can help you with that. Next person.
Good afternoon. I'm Bob Getz, a Glendale resident. The GWP officials have come to the public several times in the last 5-10 years for increased rates. Over the last few years, it was water rates. Now we're seeing some rather significant proposals for electric rates. And each time, the officials said that they needed this additional money to maintain the facility and to do upgrading of the system. Now, those are very legitimate needs, and I don't think any of the residents deny you sufficient funds to do the work you need to do well. But one of the biggest costs to this utility over the years have been these transfers, and that's been one of the most controversial subjects regarding rates for a long time. Those transfers out of the utility have drained the utility to the point where you can't do your work. Now, I know you're going to have a hard time addressing what I'm saying.
Well, actually, what I'm trying to do is figure out whether it's a question or whether we can use that for the public comment and the discussion further. So if you have a question, let's do that.
Let me ask a question. Now, those transfers over the last 10 years have totaled about $200 million, roughly $200 million. That would have done a lot of maintenance and upgrading of the systems. Now, let's just say that City Council took only half of that, $100 million. Question, would you need to be raising electric rates by the amount that you're raising them had Council only taken $100 million from you instead of $200 million?
Fair question, thank you. I think Steve maybe will take a shot at that, and
I think there's a lot of folks that are interested in an answer to that question, and I was hoping that I could hold court over here and go through that with you and answer some other questions as well. The transfer, it's embedded in the charter. It's been voted on by the people. There's a percentage that you can go to, which is 25%. To the best of my knowledge, we're at about 13 now, which is as high as it's been. When times were better, when our revenues were up, when our sales were up, and it was a less percentage, it didn't seem to have as big an impact. But of course, in today's economy, it is of more interest and topic of discussion. But at the end of the day, that money is put into other city services that clearly benefit the public. That's police, fire, parks, public works. And at a rate that, if you were to consider what we would have to do to adjust that and the draconian cuts that would have to be made, I mean, this is a dividend that the city takes. I think Ramon mentioned and Eric mentioned that public power agencies and public utilities, this is the dividend that they take to help the general fund operations and the general government operations continue to thrive for the whole community. But I was anticipating we had more discussion on that, so I'd be happy to hold court and talk more about that with you.
Right. So these are really important questions, and we have 5 or 6 more at least. So I want to make sure we keep moving, give everybody a chance that hasn't gotten a chance to ask their first round of questions. So we have 1, and we have 3 there, and the gentleman in the back after that.
Yeah, Jim Parkinson, Glendale resident. And I think has already been discussed that we pay and then the money gets transferred out and we pay a second time. And I'd like to know where on the stock market I could get 10% dividend. But nevertheless, my question is concerning the smart meters, how much is it costing to make the conversion, and how much can reasonably be expected as a savings in so doing?
Ma'am, I'm sorry. We need to. Everybody has to have a chance to do this. Who is answering, Craig?
I'll answer that question. The DOE Smart Grid project was $51 million. It's an electric project, of which $20 million was paid by DOE, $31 million would be paid by GWP. The other $19 million was a water project. That was not part of the DOE Smart Grid project that we talk about, but it does total the $70 million. So when we go back and we look at when we did our cost-benefit analysis, and there is a cost-benefit study online for the metering portion, and it showed a positive net present value and positive internal rate of return to change those meters out. I don't have the exact numbers, but it is on our website. What's that? I think the payback was more like 10 years for the meters, and the net present value was about $8 million. The larger program that Ramon and I had been talking about, the upgrading of the distribution system, there's computer systems that let you move the power around. You know, right now our distribution system losses are about 9%. We expect that those should probably be anywhere from 3 to 6% lower than that. Should, you know, once we complete the modernization, it's not a 1-year program, it's a 10-year program. But when you've completed that, you're looking at savings on the distribution and power supply side of anywhere from $6 to $12 million a year. So there is a payback there. It's going to take some time to get there, but you know, that's part of the modernization. Our distribution system is essentially the same as it was in 1906 when we bought it from Brand. That's the technology we have out there. Other than the improvements that Ramon's made in about the last 5 years, not much has changed in electrical utilities. You know, we're moving into the 21st century. We have renewable energy coming on board. We have to deal with solar. You got all these mandates. We need to have better data so we can project our needs. You know, we're collecting data from the meters now that will allow us to project how much power do we need to buy to serve you an hour from now, a day from now. We didn't have that data before. So you just like, what, guessed what it was going to be in an hour, and you bought that power, and if you couldn't sell it, so you took a little loss on it. Our systems, you know, you're losing power through the old relays and old wires. The 4 kV is less efficient than 12 kV. These systems have to be upgraded. The society in the next 100 years is going to be completely different than the last 100, and we really need to be prepared for it. We're looking at 3,000 to 6,000 electric cars probably in the next 10 to 15 years in Glendale. Those are 3,000 to 6,000 single-family homes on our system. You put 3 or 4 of those on one transformer and you're not prepared to deal with it, the transformer blows up and you guys all lose your power. We can't have that. We really need to do these investments. And they do have a payback.
Okay, sir in the first row here.
My name is Tony Passarella. I'm a 26-year resident of the city of Glendale. My question is, Mr. Zern, one of the first things you said here today was in regards to the Grayson Power Plant, 72 years old, it needed upgrades. Now my question is, wouldn't it have made more sense to sit back, to repair that, and not implement the smart meter system that was not mandated, and watch somebody else, another neighboring city, go through that process? Wouldn't it have been smarter to sit back and see how it worked for somebody else instead of rushing into it when we didn't have to and it wasn't mandated? Second part of the question, would we be here today if the smart meters were never installed?
Okay, that's your question.
Well, I guess I didn't do a very good job of talking. The power plant needs constant attention and has very expensive upgrades. Actually, we're at a point now where I mentioned briefly we're looking at a modernization plan that looks at the future. Where's, as Craig said, the next 100 years of GWP? And that may mean the power plant in some different iteration. It could be totally sustainable type of an operation, but the power plant always needs significant infrastructure upgrades, as does the distribution system. The question on would we be here today if it wasn't for smart grid, you know, I'm still getting my feet wet here, but I certainly believe we would be here today. You know, that was a capital investment we made for the future. I don't believe that this is, you know, sometimes it's been portrayed that we're on the cutting edge, and I just don't think that that's the case. I think we've seen it. As Craig mentioned, maybe back as far as 2004, 2005, the whole smart grid concept started to be installed across the country. Whether it was the distribution system or the meters, I think we tend to fixate on the fact that we have these new electronic meters, and that's the whole backbone of the smart grid concept, but that isn't. It's actually a lot more than that. That's just a small part of it. You know, the bigger part of it is the reliability, the upgrade and modernization of the distribution system, the ability to deliver the power as cost effectively and reliably as we can, the ability to let the customers, let you as customers manage your electrical usage on when we get to a point, a daily basis, if you so desire. That doesn't exist today. We can give you tips and tell you do your laundry after 7 or run your pool equipment here, and certainly when the grid is less expensive, that'll result in a savings. But this will allow you to incorporate your appliances if you like, but really to manage your power and keep your bill as reasonable as you can. So all these modernization techniques, I know sometimes that folks will say, why change, why grow, but it's all about reliability and our service to the customer. That's what it's about. But yes, we would be here today, even with or without smart grid, we'd be here today.
Thanks, Steve. Steve?
Yes, absolutely.
Mike Bell, and I'm a consultant to Glendale. With regard to that last question, I'd like to make another point, and that is that the state has already mandated that the investor-owned utilities install these meters. So in the case of Pacific Gas and Electric, you're talking about 5 million of them. Southern California Edison, 4 million. San Diego Gas and Electric, 3 million. It's my professional opinion that ultimately the state will tell all of the municipal utilities that don't do this that they have to do it, just as a matter of public policy. And as you talk about these mandates and regulations, I think in Glendale's case, the fact that they went out and procured $20 million of investment from the federal government to help do this in the long run is probably a pretty good investment.
There were a couple other questions in the front row, and then gentleman in the fourth row. Who? Oh, okay.
Just one clarification. The smart grid is really not a new technology. What we were doing here since the early 2000s is really making the system more smart. The only thing that got added through the DOE is the addition of the meter. And all that does really, what the DOE wants is to be able to give you, the customer, to have control of your consumption. But in terms of the smart system, the smart grid, we have been doing that SCADA that I pointed out there. That's really part of the smart grid program that we have. And all the investments we're making into the system, all the new equipment that we're putting in, we've been adding the new electronics, new devices, so that we get a lot more information. So smart grid, and you've heard me, if you knew me, you would have heard me before that when the government started introducing this, there's really no such thing as a dumb grid as far as the electrical utility is concerned. We've been in this business now for so long, and we have been making the system a lot smarter, going from just the wires and cables to adding all the electronics and the new technology that's been coming to market.
Do you still have questions in the front? I saw some hands up before in the front row. No? Excuse me?
A little too smart, if you ask me.
Okay. Gentleman in the second row, and then gentleman in the fourth row, and then we'll come over here again.
Hi, Dave Moreno speaking. The public has expressed a number of concerns regarding the lack of transparency in the selection and implementation of a select committee allegedly staffed by citizens to study this issue. Given Scott Ochoa's professed statements towards transparency, why did you feel it was necessary to hide the members of this group? That's part one of the question.
Go ahead and mention part two. So
okay. Harry Zavos, a Loyola law professor, has studied and spoken on the illegal transfer of funds to the general fund numerous times, so I won't even go there. Attorney Garcia has written a memo on this, but to date it has not been released. Again, given the professed transparency from Scott Ochoa's office, why has this opinion not been released to the public, and when will it be released?
Okay.
Last question.
I think in order to have it...
Let me finish, please. Glenn Steiger was released from his duties, allegedly because of some fraudulent actions on his part. Why has he not been prosecuted? if a driver in GWP was to steal something, he would be prosecuted. This person has not been. I think the public has a right to know why you have chosen not to do that.
Okay, we're
Thank
going to
you.
take your first
There's three questions.
question.
I'm looking
We're gonna
forward
take
to
your
answers
first
to
two
all of them. Thank you.
questions And the last as a comment. And we have lots of other questions, so we need to keep moving this.
Yeah, there has been in the past some questions, and if any of you follow the GWP commission, we used an advisory committee, a cross-section of individuals representing a broad-based constituency, to advise us on how best to put out the message to folks. They did not structure the rates. They did not tell us what we should charge or what we shouldn't charge. They didn't do our finances. We used them as a sounding board to say, if we're going out there to talk to your constituency, whether it's residential, whether it's low income, whether it's new arrivals to our city and to our country, whether it's property managers, large business, small business, industrial, medical, we wanted to get some feedback from these folks to make sure that what we were bringing out and that we were presenting a message that was palpable, that you could understand, that you could relate to. Whether you agreed with it or not, it was a different story. And so we used them for advice. That's what we used them for. It was nothing any more nefarious than that. It's just a broad spectrum. Well, I mean, I don't know that that's important who they are. They represent, okay.
Because you're not addressing transparency.
Okay. Well, this was an ad hoc committee that we used for advice. I'll leave it at that. I know that's not going to satisfy you, but your second question about, help me, your second question? And that as late as yesterday or last night's meeting is still forthcoming. I can't tell you. The city attorney is his own entity, and he'll present that memo, I assume, when it's complete. But he's continued to indicate to council he's working on that, and that he'll present that to him. As far as Glenn Steiger left this city for personal reasons. That's all I know. That's all I will comment on. Nothing else that's been reported is anything that I care to comment on or will comment on.
And you'll have a chance at the public comments to make whatever comments you want. Right now we're doing clarifying questions and finishing up just a few more questions on the presentation and the gentleman in the fourth row.
Thank you. Hello? Okay. Thank you. My name is Herbert Milano. I'm a property owner here in Glendale. What I have done during the past 5 years is pay close attention to the finances of the GWP and attend every month the meetings. And I think the public simply wants to have as clear and honest appraisal of these rates. That the money that we are paying, the additional increases are fair, and that they're geared towards the things that you say they're going to be put forth. Now, included in the rates is a 7% utility users tax. That's money that we pay as an additional tax that goes into the general fund. The transfers amount to another 10%. That's 17% in additional taxes above and beyond the cost of delivering that electricity to the public. When you were asked just recently, a couple of minutes ago, about those transfers, you said that they clearly benefit the public. But what the public doesn't know is that the significant increases in the pension system has caused the city to spend an additional $17 million a year, for which there are no sufficient taxes to pay for. And that is, in my opinion, one of the reasons why those transfers are needed. 60% for every 60 cents additional to every dollar of payroll for police and fire goes to benefits. People don't know that. But here's the problem, and I think that the one that has to be addressed is this. The critical infrastructure needs that you have stated today, and that was stated in the budget sessions, $300 million of critical infrastructure needs for the electric. plants and all the distribution ends. And the ones that you basically stated that you need for the next few years, you know, they roughly, I forgot the amount that you mentioned, around $90 million that were needed. I don't think that anyone would question the fact that you need to put money into infrastructure to keep the utility working properly. And so we're finding ourselves now with an increase in the rates that appear to address finally that lack of proper investment in the past. And I think that most of us are really concerned about that the monies that are being transferred out eventually prevent the utility from taking care of its basic needs of providing adequate infrastructure and reliability. All of you are addressing that. So in that light, I'd like to see if you could see the slide number 26, if you could show it to us. Because slide 26 shows a monthly bill comparison that I think everyone should be aware of as to how you're presenting it. For those of you who have the actual document,
Slide 26.
Slide 26.
One more back. We obviously didn't bring the IT guys with us. I'm sorry.
There we go. Now, so I have several questions concerning this slide, if you could perhaps help us with. For those individuals who are on fixed incomes and who are judicious with the use of electricity, the chances are that they will be using 10 kilowatt hours per day or less. That's about 300 kilowatt hours as opposed to 500. And so when you show a 500 kilowatt hour usage per month, you're not really telling us how much of that is a fixed amount that we have to pay irrespective of the usage. And so I think that it would have been a more fair and equitable representation had you shown this table at 300 kilowatt hours and then do the comparison. That's question number one.
Is that a question or a
Yeah, it's a
statement?
question. It's how would we compare to the other utilities had this been at around 300
Okay.
kilowatt hours, which
Okay.
is a more moderate usage of electricity.
Okay.
Second part to this table is the following question. Is this the table after the increase or before the increase? Okay.
All right, so I'd like to be responsive to those questions. I'm not sure if you were here for the earlier part of the presentation, but I'd like to clarify. If you go back to the slide we were just looking at, please. Well, since we're here, I'll just go through that. What I did do was I did talk through the low-income, multifamily, and single-family based on the actual average consumption in our system of the actual users. But that other slide that we just had up there, right there, essentially that was prepared the same. You see the source down the bottom. This was coming from basically an independent source, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. What I was attempting to convey here was using just the other publicly available information, how we would be comparative to the other locals. There wasn't publicly available information of that specific level of usage that you were interested in, so this was as close as I could get for this. What we're seeing here on that previous slide, as well as these slides, the green bar represents where your bill is today, and the additional red component is the additional piece that we're seeking under the proposed rate increase.
We have time for one more question, and then we're going to go to public comment, which I think is probably more appropriate for most of you.
Perhaps.
This woman right here in the blue. Sir, you've had a few questions, and you'll be able to do public comment. We've got to stick with our time schedule.
I just want to say that there is a misleading presentation with regard to this data without the follow-up of the fixed amount that we have to pay, irrespective of the usage, right? And that I'd like to pass it along to somebody else.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am?
My name is Mo Montgomery, and I'm looking at these slides on page 1. It looks like page 11 and the one before that, which would be 10. Maybe I'm wrong. What I want to ask you is about these capital improvements, and they're also called reserve funds for natural disasters, equipment failures. And it says in slide number 19, we're told that the capital improvement budget has essentially been zeroed out in the current budget. In the next slide, number 20, we're told that we have these 20% goes to transfer, which I don't even understand what you mean by that. And my fault, but I just don't understand that. And capital improvements and interest comes to about 5%, and depreciation is another. So it's about 40% is transfer and depreciation. And I'm looking at capital improvement budget has been zeroed out. And then on slide 27, we're told that you want to restore cash reserve levels to be responsive to unplanned events. I know I'm not very clear, but my question is, I agree with you. We want to restore the cash reserve levels to be responsive to unplanned events. We want our infrastructure. But my question to you is, how much of the money from GWP, which should have gone to capital improvements, has gone somewhere else, and where has it gone?
Thank you for the questions. I'll try to be responsive to this. That pie chart there that shows the $4.8 million in capital expenditures, what that actually represents is advances and monies that we have received from customers to do specific work. It's not coming from prior debt issued money or revenues that we have collected. So the other component of your question, I'm trying to recall.
Why do we not have any depreciation money?
Okay, so I'll try to clarify that. The topic of depreciation is essentially, it's an accounting type of a recording of the erosion in value of the plants. It's not segregation of actual cash. It's just a part of the calculation that goes into whether or not we are operating at a deficiency or making net income. It is a pretty complex topic, and if you'd like, when we finish, I'd be happy to stand by and attempt to address that further if you'd like, and if I can't get there, we can continue with some additional conversation.
Yeah, along those lines, we're at a point where staff will be able to stay after and have discussion on any of these items with those that want to do that. But right now, we're actually going to just move into a public comment period where folks will have up to 3 minutes, and we will record. You know, we'll capture with note taking any of those public comments that are related to this particular issue. And then we'll adjourn, and then staff will be here to talk with anybody about any of these other issues further. So I'm saying that before we limited to questions, now it's your turn. If you have some particular comments, we'll record those just as that, and that'll be part of our record that we report back. And the microphone will be there. Sir, if you want to start off right here.
Let me bring that up. That relates to the slide number 10. It's the conversion. This company conversion is a good idea, but why they use my property and my security in the private to convert it to public use, and they even took my member family job away from them. Can somebody explain to me?
Yes.
Because it's company, the conversion is okay, but the private.
This young man would be happy to.
Yeah,
to
but the way they convert to my personal property, and they even took my family jobs away from them. We not in a public figure.
Would you raise your hands if you have public comments that you want to make so we can get a sense of it? This gentleman in the back, so there's 3 at this point. Okay, thank you.
I'm here because I take I'm here because I take exception to Steve's remark that the city is entitled to a dividend. We're talking about semantics here. It's nothing more than a...
Lady, I can't hear him. I'm sorry, I want to hear him.
It's nothing more than a hidden tax. You can call it whatever word you want. It's a tax. And tax should come from a different source than the utilities.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Those will be noted. Aram's next.
Okay, I want to say that now, regarding the funds we're using, the $21.5 million has been transferred. That is it. That is removed from the Glendale Water Power. That's not all that's been removed. I want the people to know there are other items that have been removed. We're still transferring money from the water department, which the courts ruled it's illegal to transfer. We're transferring that to the electric department by overbilling the water into the system, mailing system, and then moving that money to the electrical. We're still doing $2.5 million. And then I have another objection, which is really bothers me a lot. We're losing a lot of money from Glendale Water and Power for doing, they call it capital improvement, so-called capital improvement, but it's not capital improvement. Like on Central Avenue, they're doing capital improvement, which is, I don't know, what is it, 10 to $15 million in capital improvement. And that money, when I build a building, years ago, they say, okay, you're going to build a building, but you're going to pay a proportion share of the undergrounding system, $80,000, $100,000 to hook up the power to your building. Now there are some large buildings going on Brand and Central and side streets where that money is not being collected back. They say, we're going to give you as a gift. We're not going to charge you for that $5 million you're going to take to bring all the power line down to this hotel or to the 330-unit apartment building you're building here, all exempt. Okay, and I got public records of it. I know they're exempt. They're not getting the money collected back, so they should charge them $3-4 million for the value of bringing the power to those buildings. But they're not. They're saying we're not going to charge you. Also, they're not charging for all the sidewalks, curbs, and gutters, which is all those bills, as I understand, from internal use that is being transferred to Glendale Water and Power rather than Public Works, and they're giving for free for all the big structures, which really I object to that. Then we ratepayers, we're going to have to pay for that. That is illegal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aaron, for those comments. Gentleman in the back.
Hi, Mike Mohill again. I'd like to bring up the smart meters again. I remember at a Glendale City Council meeting, your previous boss, Glenn Steiger, said that the smart meters was going to be $28 million. Then at another meeting in this room, he said he smiled when someone said was it going to be $50 million, and he smiled at that point. And now we have $70 million. And the other question is, this was not mandated. We never needed smart meters now. We could have put a moratorium on it and say, you know what, when we're through with this recession, which will probably be another 7 years, then we can talk about putting in smart meters. But the system was never broken, and we didn't need to invest $70 million for smart meters. If we needed $70 million, we could have used that money to fix the infrastructure and not smart meters. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments. They're so noted. Anybody else that hasn't had a chance to make comments that you'd like us to record? Sir, just a minute. Let me finish. I want to make sure anybody here that hasn't had a chance to speak, to make public comments, gets to do that before we do anything different.
Mona Montgomery again. I want to reiterate or translate what Aram said because it's very important. There are several large buildings that are being put up on Central that have been approved by the City Council. And one of the agreements that the City Council gave to these new builders was that they wouldn't charge them for the usual fee of bringing the sewer from the building to the street and bringing the electricity powers from this building to the street. The City of Glendale is just granting that to them as a favor. And Aram is saying that that shouldn't have been, that the city was wrong to give that kind of a gift to these big builders because we are now going to have to pay for that. So that was the point he was making. Now, another thing to notice with this agreement, this promise, on the part of the city to these builders to give them free access, free work, is that they're going to build up big buildings without sufficient parking places, and that the city is motivated to make this encumbrance on our density, because then they're going to get a lot of extra money into the form of payments coming from the electrical bills and the power bills. And so we object to that misuse of our city.
Okay, well, seeing, excuse me? Well, we're gonna just move into a discussion phase, and we'll stick around for that. I appreciate you allowing me to be a rigid facilitator. I do that because I'm trying to honor the hour and a half that we advertised, and my experience is that people that have time commitments, if you don't stick on schedule, that they pay a price for that. So, but we appreciate all the comments and questions today. Folks will stick around and have as much conversation as you want further about these. We have other public meetings coming up. You're certainly welcome to go to those as well. We're going to adjourn this meeting at this point, and we'll stick around after that. Thank you for your time.